Hello again. I'm in the park. Yeah, I was out on a bike ride to clear my mind. Wanted to update everyone on goings on about Starscape and the community. Yeah, things that have been happening lately. Developments, departures, and the plan going forward, which I talked about a little bit last time. There have been some updates, so strap yourselves in. It's just going to be stream of consciousness again. I don't have an agenda written up or anything. It's just me and, whoever happens to be passing by while I record this video. So let's see. Where to begin? So since the last video, a few things have happened. Yeah, where to start? So last weekend, I started looking into the code base, and I actually started working in it again. I wrote a few hundred lines of code for the first time in quite a long time. And that was nice. I didn't feel like there was a lot of pressure. And I was looking into doing some stuff that would make it easier for other developers to work in the code base, particularly binary and Dres. So as I was working, a lot of doubt kind of entered my mind about the whole thing. And I guess I should preface the rest of this by saying many of you will not see the following in a positive light. I personally think it is the best option going forward, but I'm going to be talking about some stuff that may be somewhat upsetting, or just to make people a little doubtful about how things are going to go going forward. Regardless, I was working on the code base and thinking about what it would be like to have other coders working as well. And I started to realize the thing that I have disliked most about working on Starscape as it has gotten bigger and grown in scope, grown in size of team and stuff like that, is the managerial side of things. When I started Starscape, I was working on it in my free time. It was just me. I built all the ships, and it's not like they looked very good, but I had made them. And I had always meant to, make HD versions later down the line, and it was never going to happen because, way too much effort and stuff. And so, what kind of happened with Starscape is I slowly gave up control over piece by piece of different parts of Starscape. So the first thing I guess I really gave up control over was, a couple things happened around the same time. I gave up control of the community, particularly the Discord. There was just a lot of drama, and there were people who understood things better than I did and had more time to dedicate to it, and so I let those people handle the community. But that actually wound up with me just not interacting with the community eventually. Especially over the past year, I've interacted very little with the community, and I haven't really been part of it. So I gave that up. But that was kind of okay because it was too big for me to manage and work on the game. And the thing I really liked was working on the game. I liked the fact that the game had a vibrant community, but I really wanted to work on the game. Around the same time, I gave up making models for the game, for the most part. So it started out with just accepting a few ships into the game. I guess was the first one the Kodiak? I think the first one was the Kodiak by Dres. Oh gosh, I hope that I am not forgetting who did things, but crazy that Dres has been around so long. But regardless, and then, I would work. There was a little bit of time where I was working on some ship stuff, but then pretty quickly the asset team and the dev team took over almost everything about working on the ships, and Dandy was spearheading all that and organizing everyone, getting everyone to understand a build style, what's necessary. I made a pretty decent guide of how to build the ships and stuff like that. It all wound up clicking together, and then the dev team could make ships, and I didn't have to do anything. So that's cool. But then I wasn't making ships. And then there was communication overhead introduced as to, okay, what sort of ships are needed, when are they going to be done by, who's going to do them. And I didn't handle most of that, but I had to be privy to it, and if something needed making, I needed to be like, hey, let's get something like this out. Dandy handled a lot of that, though. But then shortly thereafter, I started giving up balance. I started giving up balancing the game, and I was working on just making tools that made it easier for other people to balance the game. This was the one where I think it started to become a little sketchier, because balance is not just stats, it's also systems and code. A lot of balance can just be done by editing a spreadsheet, and we made a tool for the balance team and the dev team that they could just balance stuff. But a lot of times it wound up being the case that my intuition was at least as good as a lot of the balancing that was coming out of stuff. Like, the balancing that was happening was sometimes overly theoretical, sometimes it was really good. It's kind of hit or miss, though. So I'd given up control of the community, models, balance. But what wound up happening is I had also, when you give up that much stuff, you kind of start giving up the direction of things, right? And when you start giving up the direction of things and you're just a manager, that's when it's like, okay, I'm just dealing with organizing people, putting stuff that other people made into the game, not really controlling where things are going, not really controlling the art direction, not controlling. And then, this thing that had been... And then I started to see that, like, the dev team, I wasn't contributing a lot of time to the dev team or dev team discussions. And a lot of discussions were just happening outside of my purview. About features that are going to be added, about things that need changing that just were not always things that I was 100% on board with or aware of. And then, the disconnect between me and the dev team just started to grow, which is very unfortunate. So that disconnect was growing for a time. Especially because I just wasn't around, for the past 4 months. It's bound to happen. And I think a lot of people have been frustrated with me, and that's fine. Again, I totally understand. But then what wound up happening is, Binary and Drez have been fantastic members of the community and the dev team for a long, long time, and they're really dedicated to the game. They really love the game. And so when it seemed like I could get 2 dedicated, competent people on board to take over coding, and I could just kind of, wipe my hands clean of being the roadblock for everyone else, I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to give up the control. I want to be in the high-level discussions. I want to talk about some features, but that's about it. I don't think that's actually possible or what would have happened if Binary and Drez came on board. I think I would have lost a lot more control than I had intended. And all the while, I would still be a roadblock because I would still be the one who has to publish it. I would still have to work on all the critical systems. I'd have to do code review because, while Binary and Drez are brilliant, they're not as experienced as I am, especially when it comes to things like security. And for a game like Starscape, security, knowing how to not introduce a dupe glitch, knowing how to, sanitize, remote information and stuff like that is critical, to say the least. If any of you were back in the old APOC days, I didn't know how to do any of that stuff when I made APOC, and oh my gosh, that game was exploiter heaven. And there are exploiters in Starscape, right? But you can't just give yourself 100 billion credits most of the time. Sometimes things have slipped through, but we catch them pretty quickly. But anyway, I just started to realize that Starscape would be reduced to the things I hate. And for something I had worked on for 5 years, over 5 years, oh my gosh, that sounded like a horrible way for things to end up, is for me to just be doing the stuff I hate. So I'm going back on what I said I'd do. I hate to go back on promises. I really hate to go back on promises. Because I had announced that. I thought it was the right thing to do at the time. I really did. I really thought it was the right thing to do. But when I actually started looking into it, I was like, no, this isn't gonna end well. Because it would almost be the worst of both worlds. I would still be a roadblock, and I would not be doing what I like to do. So, which is making cool stuff in space on a Roblox game. If you look throughout my entire life, one of the most consistent things of it is making spaceships on a children's internet Lego game. And I wouldn't be doing that anymore. Maybe that's part of growing up, but maybe it also would just be really sad. Anyway, so I came to the ultimate conclusion that I had to choose from one of two extremes. I had to either give it all up and just say, Dandy, Stevie, dev team, I'm the owner in name only. You all make the decisions, you implement things, you go as fast as you can. I'm not going to get in your way anymore. Or the other alternative was to take back control. And by that I mean taking back control over just about everything. So that's what I have decided to do. And what exactly does that entail? It means essentially that from here on out, it's almost like a return to alpha. Now, it doesn't mean the game's going to be an alpha anymore, again. But it does mean that I'm going to work on what I want to work on, when I want to work on it. It means the role of the dev team is going to be severely reduced, if not, there won't exactly be a dev team anymore. I want to go back to the game being just me. And from time to time there may be things that, when I need a giant battleship or a a landscape or structures or something, maybe I'll contract some work out to people who want to work on it. But for the most part, right now, I think Starscape and my relationship with it just needs to go back to being what it was when I started the game, which is working on something I want to work on in my free time, and trying to reduce all those other sources of stress. Now, the ultimate hope about doing this is that when I bring it back fully under my control as a passion project that I want to work on, and I still do feel like I want to work on it, that I'll go back to being able to work on it the way I used to. And none of you are probably going to remember this, but back in the day, like 2020 or 2019 even, I had a reputation for moving incredibly quickly, and that was even while I had a full-time job and stuff. I had a reputation for moving so fast on Starscape and implementing stuff in like days that you would expect to take weeks or months. Nowadays, that is completely flipped. It takes me months to do something that should take days or weeks. And as I've talked about before, part of that is just due to the size of the code base, and things are very difficult to understand how things interact, and like you make one change that you think shouldn't impact other areas of the code, but then you remember, oh yes, actually those do interact other areas of the code. There's a wasp. I hate wasps. So if I start running around, that's why. I think I said something like that in the previous video about a bee. Anyway, where was I? I've completely lost my train of thought. Anyway, the code base is so big that, things take longer to implement because, there are more things you have to worry about. And then you have to worry about things like data integrity. You have to worry about things like balance. When we're in alpha, it doesn't matter, right? You like data integrity. Who cares? There's going to be a wipe. If you lose your stuff, I don't care. Now I have to care. And then on top of all that, balance, it didn't matter because all the stuff was going to be wiped. Now balance matters because if you lose a destroyer, it's kind of a big deal. All that said, that's another reason why bringing binary address on would be difficult, is because learning the code base would take months of me explaining things a lot of the time, and they'd be digging around and not getting a lot done, and so would it even be any better or any faster? We really can't know. Yeah, so I'm taking Starscape back under my wing, which means I'm gonna, maybe I'll do some modeling when I want to make a new ship. Maybe I'll be doing, obviously I'll be doing all the code and all the feature work. It's all going to be from my head to the game. And, I might ask for suggestions and advice from trusted people from time to time, but the game is going to be mine again. And I hope it's good for the game. I hope it's not just good for me. I know it will be good for me because it's just been too much to worry about. I'm clearly unwilling to give up control over Starscape. I clearly have this connection to it that I don't want to go away. And I know there are people who know Starscape better at this point and understand it better than I do. But I know the code, and I know what I want the game to be, and that's always what Starscape was to me, is, what I want to make it. So I'm gonna take it back. There's more to talk about. So what about the community? When Starscape started, it didn't have a Discord. Discord wasn't as much of a thing. back in 2017, but it was growing in popularity. And I think it was December 2019 I made the Discord for it. Yeah, that seems a little late, but maybe it was 2018. I can't quite remember, but the Discord is not the game. Starscape and its Discord community are not the same thing. They never should have been as closely intertwined as they became. And Starscape has a very unique community. I mean, if you look at Roblox game communities, Starscape's Discord community has like 25 or 30,000 people. Now, not all those people are active. Very few of those people are active. But it is still massive compared to our active player base. And this goes into the line that I've said a lot before, where a lot of people love the idea of Starscape, but they don't love playing Starscape. And it's not a great place to be, because what it's sort of meant is there's just a lot of community overhead related to Starscape. And there's so much drama. Because Starscape is a very faction-oriented game, it's impossible to get rid of the drama related to factions and related to people. And for all of that to be centralized in a single location in the Discord community is a bad thing. It's been bad for me. It's been bad for other people. Some of it has been fun. Some of the drama and the faction, especially at the beginning, was interesting, was fun. It just all became so toxic. It still is. And I don't see that ever ending. And what it's meant is that, like, Starscape, a game with an active player base of like 200 players on a decent day, we have to have like a full team of like a dozen chat moderators just to deal with, the hundreds of people who are online at any given time, who pop in to say like Starscape's dead, and then leave. So that's been a big just concern, and it's wasted so many people's time. One of the things I feel the worst about is just taking so much time from chat moderators. They're always on, moderating stuff, and it's kind of like, for what? What has the community brought the game? The community is, for all its faults, is still a good thing, but it has such a high cost associated with it for development, for the time of moderators, for people's perceptions of the game, for people's, it somewhat makes Starscape uninviting for new players. There are a lot of things that I don't like about the community, even though there are things I do like about the community. And the other thing to mention is just that the Discord isn't the whole community of Starscape. There are plenty of people who play Starscape who never go onto the Discord, who aren't even in it. But I've relied on the Discord so much for ideas and for feedback and all this stuff that it almost seems like the Discord community is Starscape, right? And I think that has been detrimental to the game. So I think that what needs to be done, because Star has done a fantastic job. I feel immensely appreciative that he's stuck around this long, despite, not getting the recognition he deserves and not getting the updates to the game that he deserves. But he's managed everything so fantastically, even when I've been gone. But I don't want to have the knowledge that I'm somewhat taking advantage of the kindness and generosity of others anymore. And so I think what we need to do, if we could leave up a Discord server with 25 or 30,000 people and have it be unmoderated and just a place where people could connect and chat, that would be one thing. But we can't do that. The Discord community needs to be heavily moderated because it looks bad for Roblox, it looks bad for us, some things would be illegal. There's so many things that we would have to moderate day in, day out. So Discord can't stay up without moderation, and I don't want to keep taking advantage of volunteer moderators who are in most cases, such wonderful years of their youth that they shouldn't spend worrying about toxicity and drama for an internet Lego spaceship game for children. All that being said, the Starscape Community Discord is going to be entering read-only mode, which will essentially mean I will post patch notes and announcements still when things are being made, but it's not going to be the place to go for the Starscape, to have a community around Starscape. I want people to make their own communities like they have before. The problem in the past has just been Starscape community, the Discord server, has always been a centralized authority over everyone else. We had this idea of affiliate servers and faction advertisements, and so there was this network of approved servers and unapproved servers and servers we liked and didn't like, and it's just a mess, and we shouldn't do it anymore. We should let people make unofficial communities for Starscape, and the best ones will filter up to the top, is the hope. I don't want us to be coming down on top and telling people, I don't want us to be liable for it, I don't want us to be responsible for it. It takes time away from development, it takes time away from lives, so I don't think we should do it anymore. And that is a huge change, and that is probably the thing that is going to upset everyone the most, because some people have been in this Discord community for 3 years, and that's a lot of a life, especially a childhood, if you discovered Starscape in high school. But I think that, I think it'll be best for the game going forward. So that's probably the biggest news. I think I should talk about the Patreon as well. We launched the Patreon at a really bad time, because it was, right before my wedding, and I didn't realize just how long I would, be unable or unwilling to work on Starscape 4. We've already taken some people's money, and we don't have a lot to show for it. People did still have access to the patron-only channels and stuff like that, but it hasn't necessarily improved the development of the game much, and I feel quite bad about that. I want to assure everyone that the money from the Patreon, as originally intended, is not going to just go to me. I'm not going to take it and run. I don't need it. I do have a job now, so that was never the intention of it. I am going to be paying it out to members of the dev team, because they deserve it. If not for the work done in the past few months, for all the work they've done over the course of the game's development. And then we'll be setting the Patreon to inactive for the foreseeable future, especially with the departure of Stevie, who really spearheaded that. That's going to be a necessity, and frankly, if I'm working on the game on my own, I don't want to be accepting donations unless there's something really to show for it. So that will be happening very shortly. Discord shutting down, Patreon shutting down. What else is going on? Yeah, so you may have heard Stevie just recently posted an announcement about departing from the Starscape community, essentially, and I just want to thank Stevie for all the incredible work put into Starscape and time and managing the Patreon and just interacting with everyone so much better than I ever could. The direct videos, which are like professional grade, just incredible. I'm so thankful, for the people that I've gotten to work with. In the Accelerator, Arctic, and then Critique. No, Stevie and I were a really great team. Not everything panned out from the Accelerator as we expected, but we got some good stuff out of it. We got skills. We had started the combat overhaul during the Accelerator. We didn't get stations out. Yeah, but anyway, I feel. And then, not to mention, obviously, Dandy and everyone on the dev team, everyone on the asset team. Everyone has been fantastic. And I have just nothing but great words to say about all of them. Even though, we have not always seen eye to eye on everything. It's just been a fantastic time, and I hope to keep in touch with everyone. This isn't I don't want this to be the end of friendships. Despite the fact that what I'm doing is perhaps in some ways a selfish act, I do also think it is perhaps, and I hope, fitting, and at a fitting moment where so many of us who have worked on Starscape are entering new chapters of our lives, new jobs, new schools, growing up. I mean, this is the reality of working, with people who are in high school and college, or young adults in whatever way, is that people's lives change a lot. And this is just going to be a new chapter for a lot of us. It's not the end of Starscape by any means. I want it to be a good thing for Starscape. I think it can be, but it's going to take work and time. And as I said in the previous video, I don't want to promise timelines. I'm still going to take it easy for a little bit. I've got a lot of stuff coming up soon that is going to take some time. But when I get back to really working on Starscape, I want it to be with fresh eyes and a fresh mind. Just ready to have fun with it again. I think I've covered just about everything now. I know this isn't the news that a lot of you probably had hoped to hear. Probably a lot of you were excited for things to start picking up again soon, and that may or may not be the case. It's going to depend on how I feel as a solo dev. I want to just take a moment again to thank every member of the community, everyone who's given money, and for it's part of the Patreon, everyone who's given time, everyone who's given their talent to working on Starscape. And I don't want it to be for nothing, and I hope that I can prove to you that it won't be. And to everyone who's worked on Starscape, and to everyone who's been a part of the community, I want to wish you all the best in everything that you do going forward. Whatever projects you may work on, whatever you may do, I'm wishing you all the best. This is not the last you'll see of me. I will continue to post on YouTube, I hope, and make some dev blogs again, make some fun stuff how I used to. There's always a chance I don't. That's always going to be nagging at the back of my mind as I've been thinking about this, but I think this is the right move, and I hope you can see it from my perspective a little bit. That is all from me for now. Fly safe.